What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Motorfest. So I did want to make a quick video today going over the next summit, and or I guess you could say when this is out. That summit is indeed going to be available to actually play, but the thing is, guys, the next summit is going to be heavily based on drifting, so I would probably say many people are most likely, well, how do I actually level up my drift class quick? Now, when recording this video, I obviously could not do the summit and or tell you guys exactly which events are in this, but if I did have to guess, it is most likely going to have the actual, like, drift events, and then, of course, I would say they're probably going to be some of, like, the drift races, but if you guys are wondering, though, what is the best way to actually level these up, and or how can I actually get them maxed out for the summit? So if you guys are wondering, by the way, you can also jump into basically any of the playlists as well and do like some of the races, but I have to admit, guys, the best way I found to max out my drift cars is easily the drift experience, which I would say is not going to be very shocking because, well, this is obviously a drift playlist, so leveling up a drift car in a playlist that's based on drifting would probably make a lot of sense, I would say, but for this, guys, many of the events are probably going to be very straightforward, so if you did want to, you could obviously do like one event over and over, and or basically grind out like initial drill, or jump into like the wind slider, then go back into the dream spiral, then finally go back into like the initial drill. So you could obviously go like back and forth with each event. I would probably say though, guys, doing these events over and over is probably not a bad idea, at least going over these and or getting prepped to do better in the summits and stuff like that. So at least you will also be getting parts while doing so. Now the big question is, which vehicle should I run while going through this and or leveling up the drift class? So obviously you guys probably have many of your vehicles from the crew too, like I do, so you could most likely pick different vehicles and or go through them. But I have to admit, guys, one of my favorite vehicles I'm basically running right now is going to be the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution X. So this will come down to the fact that you don't actually have to change any of the pro settings on the Evolution X, guys, while doing this playlist. So you can literally jump into this car and or do every single event in this playlist, which, by the way, there is going to be legitimate races as well. So sure, some cars might actually be good with doing like a drift event, which I would hope. Basically every vehicle in this category can do so, but the thing is though, not every car can actually do like a drift trial and then go right into like a drift race and then finally do a legitimate race afterwards and or hold its own. So when driving the Evolution X the first time, guys, I was honestly insanely impressed with this car. Like, the fact that you could do both of the events and not adjust this thing at all is going to be an insanely great thing about this car. Like, sure, you could probably go into, like, the other drift cars and, like, you know, mess around with their settings to make them that much better, but we actually have a car that you can run basically fully stock. Now, of course, guys, I did mention, obviously, in the title, this is going to be the best drift car to actually level this class up, so I would probably say, guys, if you are wondering, by the way, how can I actually get them maxed out quick, that is by far going to be this playlist here, because at least it is based on drifting. Do keep in mind, guys, the parts you do get from these races does go by the length of them, so doing one of like the drift events, guys, that's going to be around 1 minute to maybe 2 minutes long. You're obviously going to get a certain amount of parts, and without a loot digger, you're most likely going to get maybe 2 to 4 parts. But if you do one of the longer events, let's say that's like 3 to 3.5 minutes, which many of the races in this playlist are normally like 2.5 to 3 minutes, so they will end up giving you more parts because obviously they are going to be longer events, so it kind of has to offset itself by being like a 3.5 minute race and or giving you more parts than actually doing like a 1.5 minute drift event. So that would probably make a lot of sense for that matter. But do keep in mind, guys, you also can get parts for these cars by using them and or driving around and grabbing the live reward crates around the map. That is probably one of the best ways to most likely get many of these vehicles maxed out if you don't like driving them. Which, funnily enough, guys, I did get maxed out parts on these vehicles to at least get these cars to max level without even running these cars one time in any events, at least beforehand. But I also do find it kind of funny how you can basically run the Lancer Evolution X in the entire summit, which I would say is probably going to be a positive. That way you can run this car in like the Drift Experience playlist, and then of course jump right back into the summit. So this really is going to be a huge win though, because now you can obviously do a lot of different events but also jump into a summit and not even mess around with the pro settings on this vehicle at all. So this really is going to be a great thing, guys. I would say the Evolution at least from the testing I have done with this vehicle in Motorfest for that matter, is probably going to be very close and or equivalent to the 370Z Pro Drift that was in the Crew 2, basically like one of the best all-around cars in the game. So the Evolution is basically one of the best cars to rank up and or get maxed out parts for this class. Now I do want to mention, by the way guys, I will be doing a second drift video for tomorrow going over like the best possible part set build that you can basically have in the game right now, at least compared to like later on, where we might get some crazy part sets in like summits. But let me know if you guys have any questions at all in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more insight.